Hello and a huge warm welcome. My name is Lorraine Davies and I'm the host of this summit, The Expansion, Unleash Your Infinite Potential and Reclaim the Power Within. I am so excited to have the fabulous Avery Lane with us today. Avery is an internationally recognized soul activator, soul ascension mentor, and thought leader. She's located in the beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. And she's committed to guiding individuals on their transformative journeys towards soul self-discovery, energetic healing, and spiritual ascension evolution. Oh my goodness. Like you are the perfect. I'm so excited for us to talk about the topic of this expansion, because that all comes back to who we're here to be at a soul level, and how we're here to kind of show up in the world. So I would love, Avery, before we get into the depth of everything that it is that you do and how you show up and serve, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your expansion and how you got to be where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I could start in so many different areas to talk on this topic, right? Because we are expanding in every single facet of our lives that we're in. But how did I get to be, I could say, in the realm of teaching and leading others how to connect with their soul and activate higher levels of their consciousness is through many, many journeys of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, what is for me, what my passion is, and ultimately being placed by God's first universe in this role, in this position, right? And allowing myself to open up. Right. And so expansion for me really comes from heart center. Whenever I think about it, whenever I reflect on expansion, it's from that heart center, allowing myself to open up in the place of love and service and giving so that I can experience what is for me fully, and I can help others begin to experience the life where they can expand into the joy and happiness versus expanding into, the things that we don't want to experience more of, like the pain or the suffering. So, yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, thank you. So just through many journeys of trying to figure out how to expand into that love and that joy and that happiness versus many trials and tribulations of walking along what doesn't light me up, what brings in that pain and suffering.
I think it's, for a lot of people, it does start with that, doesn't it? It goes, well, that's a no. that's like a hell no, that's not what I want. And actually, and along this way, it's this journey of, leaning and going, oh, okay, that does light me up. I love the term like lights you up, because I truly believe that everybody has like this spark inside of them, and that we just need to like fan it a little bit, and it'll gradually get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's like the expansion, how I see the expansion process. So when you talk about this piece of the jigsaw puzzle for you, like what am I here to do, like and just leaning in and discovering what was not for you, what was for you. And then now that you've been on this journey, you're like, this is it, this is how I'm being called to show up and serve. You can now guide others so beautifully along their own journey. Because like I always think, like, often what we look for, or when we're creating things for our clients, for incredible people, is that it's often what we needed earlier on in our journey, right? So I
Yeah.
imagine that with what you're creating right now, it's birthed out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I was just reflecting. I had this beautiful download that comes through, just kind of like, we've talked about when these downloads come through, they hit you so differently. You're like, oh, okay, that's where I'm supposed to be going, right? And so I was sitting there and I was reflecting on, I love helping people. I'm in a completely different place in my business, and one place that I've never been before, right? I've been in all these other areas of business, but this one, I'm in this place where I can now help so many more people because I've raised my consciousness. I've practiced higher levels of ascension. And I not only am helping, the beginners and the mid-level seekers, but I'm able to help the advanced souls. And what I realized is, as an advanced soul, I call myself mastering my ascension, right? We're all ascended masters in this lifetime if we want to master our ascension. Essentially, we're just ascended masters. That's what we're becoming. So I was reflecting back and I'm like, what has been just the foundational just blueprint of what has helped me really reach each level of ascension without folding, or I was kind of talking about imploding, right? And yes, we get to implode for a moment, but that helps us expand even into more greatness. So I had this download that came through. It was like, you need to guide people through the foundational pillars, the architect, the foundational crystalline pillars of who we are, who you are as an individual, so that each time you're met with that next level of expansion or ascension, you don't resist it, you don't fold inward, you don't crumble. You get to help yourself slowly step through it because you know how, because you know what your foundation was. And I noticed a lot of souls, especially advanced souls, are missing the foundational aspects. And I had to call myself out on that too. When I first started my spiritual awakening and my ascension journey, I shot straight up. I was talking to beings and star seeds and star races and all of that, but I didn't do the foundational work that's held in my body, in my vessel, in my knowing, in my emotional field, in my mental field. I just wanted to go up because that's where it's fun. But it's a lot more fun when we're stabilized and we're foundationally placed here so that we can I call it the chutes and ladders. I was just talking to someone about this, the chutes and ladders, where we're going to shoot up to, 8D, and then we're going to come down the ladder so we can really connect with people in the third dimension and fourth dimension here. So I don't want to go off on a tangent at all. I love, wherever this is leading us. But yes, the foundational blueprint of who you are is so incredibly important for you to expand and ascend into each and every, chute and ladder that you want to climb through and experience in this life.
That makes so much sense to me because as you're speaking about that, I can just see this it's like a wobbly, like a I don't know, a wobbly table or something. And it's like if you don't have those strong foundations in place, every time you are kind of reaching up, it's like a wobbly step ladder. It's going to go falling over sideways, and then you've got to try again. Whereas with these foundations in place, you're just starting on a really solid ground. So what exactly are the foundations? You said, these strong foundations, and everyone's sitting here yeah, okay, what are they? What are they?
Yeah.
I want to know.
So what came through in my channeling, because I've done a lot of work to become a super clear channel. And when I channel, it's messages for the collective, messages that I need, that other people need. And so this symbol came through and it was like this diamond. Okay. So four-pointed diamond. And at the very top, it's love. Well, we all are the essence of love if we allow ourselves to be, right? So that's where I talked about expansion comes from that heart space, from that love and joy and wanting to experience, the pleasures of life. So at the very top, it's love. And we don't need to do anything there because essentially we are love. So the pillars that have to be worked is the first pillar for myself is the crystalline Christ consciousness. And we talk about Christ consciousness from a place of, oh my gosh, I'm going to shut down or, defend myself because it talks about a very religious structure, right? Like that's how we know what Christ is, or, just Jesus Christ or Christ consciousness or whatever. Like, okay, that's not good. That's in a religious structure. But really, it's removing all of the connotations and just, the limitations that a certain religion or culture has put on a certain belief and realize that Christ is just an ascended master, came here to teach us love and compassion, and most importantly, healing and giving and providing others with healing abilities. He was one of the greatest healers of all time, right? And he had his people around him that he taught how to heal, So just like Buddha, just like other ascended masters that come down to teach us how to love, how to heal, how to serve others and serve ourselves. That's my very first pillar. So what I do is I help people, remove the negative connotations around religion and begin to build a relationship with your own self-serving and serving others and healing facets of yourself, right? And that's part of creator, right? Christ is part of creator because you are the creator. And then the pillar number 2 is not pushing the ego aside or shutting the ego down or saying, ego, you have no place here, but actually allowing ego to heal and become integrated. So it's an integrated healing ego, where ego gets to serve us for our best and highest good, where we want to go. Ego has such a beautiful role in life that we're dismissing it because we think that it's evil, because we think it's against us, because we think it's keeping us in a reptilian brain or keeping us small-minded. But if we can learn to heal ego, get ego on board, ego gets to help us continue to ascend. Ego is not leading, but it becomes part of the team, just like our soul, just like our inner child. Everyone gets to get on board so we can continue going and experiencing and achieving what it is we want to achieve. And then the third pillar, and I know I'm going kind of fast, but if you want to learn a lot more, we can absolutely connect on it. This third pillar is the compassion, like I call them compassion key codes. So it's not just having compassion, but it's learning how to adjust the lenses of your life and live through unconditional compassion. When we start doing that, we take off the responsibility of how someone feels when we speak our truth or we hold our boundary. It's not our responsibility to care for them or to nurture them as we set a boundary, right? So when we have unlimited compassion or unconditional compassion, we get to say, hey, this is my boundary. I get how you're feeling and you're allowed to feel that way, but I'm also going to feel my way too. That's what compassion is. It's not for the weak-hearted or the meek-minded, right? Compassion is actually a really hard thing to do, especially when, that wounded ego gets triggered or an aspect of a wounded aspect of us that is like, I thought I healed through that. I thought it wasn't that anymore. Now it's time to have compassion for ourselves and those around us. So basically, the last thing I'll say on compassion is we get to have compassion and choose to allow compassion to be front and center so that no matter who we're around or what we face, that's their journey and they're entitled and responsible for their journey. And we get to have compassion for ourselves and for them through that lens. So those are the crystalline pillars that have really helped me just been a catalyst for my ascension each and every step. Even myself, I was faced with this last week. I was moving and traveling and had all of these things going on, and then really was really ill. I felt ill because I was doing too much at one time. So instead of meeting myself saying, I actually know that there was a huge chapter of my life closing this last week, and that upheavaled a lot in just releasing in my physical and mental and emotional bodies. So I turned around and I said, okay, I realize, because I'm at this level of my consciousness, that this isn't actually against me, that there's so much going on, and there's so many doors closing, and there's so much expansion happening in my life. So I'm going to choose to lean into my pillars so that these pillars can support me. They're my stronghold, they're my foundation. So that wherever I go, I get to get there quicker and I get to get there a little more healed and whole, right? So I was faced with this stomach bug while traveling and while moving, yet I'm here and I feel amazing and my energy is great. Yes, my physical body is not 100% yet, but I feel so much better because I leaned into my foundational pillars than I would if I just had no guidance and, just was really unsure and just not trusting and leaning into what I know is my truth.
Oh my goodness. I literally love all of it. I think, do you know what I find really fascinating when you're speaking is this really embodied process in terms of this understanding that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And it's that, as you say, you kind of whew, we're up there working on the ascension piece, and actually what you've done is when you've channeled these pillars, and as you work on these and you integrate them not only with yourself but with your clients, there's this understanding of but we're living in this 3D reality, right? And what we are moving through is a human experience, and that is going to require, this compassion piece. It's going to require having conversations with the ego and getting them on board. I love this so much, because I think very, certainly in the beginning of my personal growth journey, I've talked about this actually a little bit on one of the other causes, that there was this, this frustration, like with the ego, like, seriously, you keep holding me back. And it wasn't until I really learned to recognize that process was not serving me, and that the compassion piece and the kind of working, I love the way you talk about it as well, as like kind of as a team. It's a teamwork. Like the teamwork
Yes.
makes the dream work, and I just love that process, and those pillars feel so grounded in human reality, but in order to help you expand into everything you are. And also, as you said, the stability piece is so, when we're expanding, there's so much, there can be so much fear, or like, but into that leaning in process. But if you've got something to lean on, that you've got something there, that a framework, a structure, pillars that are always going to serve you, no matter which part of your expansion journey you're on, that brings peace.
Yeah.
It brings peace,
And
and it
the
brings
pillars are not outside of you. They're inside of you, right? Because we seek externally for, oh my God, someone heal me through this, or something outside of me. We seek outside of ourselves a lot, but it's inside of us, and that peace comes from within because we built that. So I think that's really important to highlight too, is like, you don't need anything outside of you. You already have it all within.
Yes, one of my absolute favorite things to share with people, because I think you're so right, and this happens a lot in the coaching world. This kind of like wanting to look outside of you please fix me, like you're broken or something. And I think to actually recognize that everything is inside of you, these pillars are inside of you, also means you always have access to them, right? You can always choose to go, yeah, I'm going to tap into it, and I'm going to use that right now, going to work with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay, so I know you said, and I wholeheartedly feel this when you were speaking, that the beautiful thing about the work that you do is you're not just able to help people at the beginning of the journey or in the middle of the journey, but you're able to help people who are have been potentially walking this path, whether in this lifetime or a previous lifetime, and really are mastering the ascension journey. And I know there's going to be people watching this call who are, this is completely new to what we're sharing, but also there's going to be people who are like, right, I'm ready for this next kind of deeper level of the process. And I would love to know a little bit more about what this looks like, this kind of process of doing this work, when you get to work with somebody at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of break it up into sections. I have my first section, and it goes of sections of like, what dimension of consciousness are we accessing and living life from, right? And so I struggle with saying people that have been on this journey for a really long time, because I've had some beautiful friends who've, 14, 15, 16 years on this journey, but they're still really can't figure out how to gap the bridge between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. So I break it up into dimensions, because it's important to not only understand and feel, but to really truly practice and grasp what you're doing or how you're moving through life. So I break it up into the third dimension into the fifth dimension. So how can we begin to cross that bridge into the 5D? And that means I really want you to get into the depths of who you are, why you operate the way that you operate, how you move through life, how you seek and experience experiences, whether there's a little bit of that, victim mentality or that creator mentality. And so when we begin to really look at our life in the 3D everyday reality, the relationships around us, we get to realize, okay, cool. There are some things that I want to start crossing the bridge into the 5D, which means we have to go through, and I reference it to our chakras too, the fourth dimension or fourth density, fifth dimension, right? So that heart chakra, we got to open up that heart. Things that have happened to you in that past, in your childhood, in those past relationships. I call them false light templates. So they're false evidence appearing real, right? We're viewing life through this lens of, well, that actually had evidence of being real in this past relationship that was not aligned for my soul. Okay, cool. How can we start clearing those false light templates so you can continue accessing this higher level of consciousness? And really, you do this through the hands-on self-healing work. You don't do this by going to a shaman, going to a Reiki master, going to, you could ayahuasca retreat. Cool. Now these things are shown in front of you. What do I do from here? Now what? Right?
Yeah,
So
it's
we
that
do,
difference,
yeah.
right? Between
Yeah.
knowing, like, yes, I know
Yes.
that I need to change something, and going, I'm physically doing something about it.
Yeah, like how? Okay. So we do the practicality. So I infuse three things, and it's individuality, reality, and spirituality, right? And so it's infusing all three areas of how do we practically change? Because I know I'm up here and I know I'm like hanging out with the fairies, but my reality looks like crap. Right. And so, okay, cool. Let's infuse, let's pull this down, let's bring this down, and let's start moving things in your reality, setting up boundaries. It really gets to really basic work, and then we get to experience a better life. And then all of a sudden, we start infusing more compassion because we had to discover for ourselves what compassion looked like. And as we infuse these small things, we're actually infusing higher frequencies. We're accessing these higher frequencies, and we're all of a sudden becoming, right? Becoming this 5D version of us. So this first level, I actually call it becoming. That's actually what it's literally called in my mentorships. And then the second level is mastering your ascension. So it's ascended soul. Okay. So now we get into like the deeper energetics and how to start alchemizing, energy and playing with it and realizing we actually are the creators of our reality and we're here to learn so many lessons. None of these lessons are ever against us, but we chose at some point in time to experience that lesson. Now, are we going to choose to be the creator from that lesson, or are we going to let it pull us all the way back down? So when we get into ascended soul, it's coming into, anywhere between the fifth dimension and the 12th dimension. And then I have higher levels too that I don't exactly speak on. Just because I want to really make sense to, the bulk of our audience here. So we have so many different levels and layers of who we are and where we're going, but it's not a race. There are times, months even that, I'm stuck in this 3 to 5D. It's just what my soul is wanting me to experience and how it wants me to evolve and expand at this phase or period of time in my life. And I have to allow that to be okay because, like you said, I am a spiritual being, but I actually like to say I'm a soul. I get to choose to have a spiritual experience, or I get to choose to just go through life completely asleep. So I'm a soul having a spiritual experience and a human experience, and that's a lot. So my soul gets to choose to have that human experience and also be spiritually aligned so that it can help me understand what my human is experiencing in this lifetime.
Oh my goodness. I love that you share like that is not a race. Because I think when we think of things like, expansion, it sounds like it's something that happens really fast. Like you've got a balloon being pumped up by a helium. It's like this. And I think and you see it online, like quantum leaps and all of these types of things, and I love the fact that you talk about this in terms of it's not a race. But what I also really 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 love is that you share there that like sometimes your soul wants to hang out in the 3 to 5D, like it's hanging out, you're having this human experience, you're experiencing this thing. And I think it makes this feel so much more accessible and relatable, because
Yes.
we can all recognize that in ourselves. When you're doing the work, when you're kind of playing in these realms and you are experiencing these things, there are times when you can feel like, oh my god, it's like click click, like it feels like everything's clicking into place, right? Like a jigsaw puzzle, you're like click 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 click. And then other times I've definitely had times where I felt like a little bit like I'm wading through mud. But if you're always approaching that with like, this is where I'm meant to be right now, with that energy and that awareness that this, we're co-creating this, that we're creating this from a space of this is what that I'm here to experience this thing right now. It's a very empowering space to create life from.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Oh my God, I get so excited. So in terms of like, obviously, we've talked a little bit about this, that this ascension piece. And I suppose it's quite an esoteric subject, really. Like it can feel like, right, okay, it's very out here, but what does it actually look like in day-to-day life, actually applying this to your
Yeah,
human
so
experience?
gosh, it looks like so many things. You can, you could go into one area of your life and go into your healing, your inner child. Really, it just is looking at all areas of your life. And so I do this layer of it's mental, emotional, physical that all creates our spiritual experience, right? So we can go into the different planes of our energy fields. We can go into different places of our life that we've experienced. So, on the day to day, it really depends on where you're at, what you're dealing with in life, what you want to move through, what you desire, what you're struggling with. And a lot of it to be honest with you, 90% of my clients' mentorship journeys start out by let's face this inner child. But even more so, we're going to talk about what energy did you come into this lifetime with? Were your parents, when you were in this womb space, were your parents together and happy and loving? Was your mom struggling and trying to survive? Were your parents arguing and fighting? Were there, so you're carrying a lot of that. So, how can we begin to realize, okay, where is this showing up in my life? A lot of it is practicality work. So, our everyday work is training our conscious mind to be front and center because a lot of our lives, if you're an NLP or any other training that works with our mind and our neurotransmitters, a lot of our life is run like 90% on autopilot. We're just moving through the day. We're just humans having a human experience and nothing else matters until we bring in consciousness. And this is where consciousness is birthed, where, gosh, you start questioning, why did I go to the mailbox? And do I really need to go here at this time? And you start questioning, wait, why did I pull out of my driveway to the right and not to the left, right? So there's just different things. So our consciousness starts small and then consciousness goes, oh my gosh, that person, why did I react that way to them? Why did their energy feel off to me? Now we're starting to build our conscious awareness of our surroundings. So it's really practical day to day. We start practicing stop living life on autopilot on that unconscious mind and start bringing in aspects of consciousness. Okay, hang on. I'm going to go into the store and I'm actually going to experience this differently. Wow, now I set an intention, right? Now I consciously set an intention to receive and experience a different experience. So that's how we get to practice it on the day life. It's just kind of like, okay, setting up I call them micro challenges or micro changes for yourself, because if we create a lot of little micro changes, all of a sudden we've just created a whole new lifestyle for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're sharing that, it's like a little experiment. Like when you
It
say it, I'm like,
is.
oh, they're like little experiments. They're like, oh, I get to, and I think that's a really important piece of what you're sharing as well, is this playfulness with the process,
Yes.
right?
Yes. All of my work, I do not want anyone to do anything that is not based out of play or curiosity. No, when we have to get into the deeper healing work, yeah, there's some pain. Yeah, there's some, denser emotions that come up, but those get to be honored too. But when we move into the higher stuff, all of my teachings, everything that I tell my clients to go through, whether it's opening up a spiritual gift or just starting to learn, how to live a conscious lifestyle, has to come from play and curiosity, because if it doesn't, now we're pressuring ourselves to experience something that we don't know how, and we're making our nervous system, just go on edge, and we're not somatically in alignment for what it is that we get to experience. So yeah, play and curiosity are the two core just fundamentals of how my teachings like lead people to wanting to experience more. There's no
I love that.
stress or pressure.
And that's why, you know, we know, right, even as children, that when we are doing things from a state of play, from a curiosity, you're much more likely to be willing and open to experience all of the things, right? And you're going to have that you're going to meet less resistance, because you're just going, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just willing to come at this and understand that I'm just trying this out. I'm going to see what happens in this space. And I love when you talk about this this consciousness piece, because I like to think, like, you know, throughout my journey, I've had, like, they're like epiphanies, or like an awakening moment, you know, like something happens in your life and you're like, oh, I now feel awake. And then another one happens over here and you now feel awake. But I love when you talk about it as, you know, I definitely feel with my journey, for a lot of it was unconscious awakening, right? It was like I was thrown into a circumstance in my life that kind of forced me to become more conscious. Whereas by actually making it a conscious decision, you know, an intention to, all right, I'm going to raise my level of consciousness, it makes it much more you know, definitely you talked about the nervous system there. It makes it much easier, much gentler, and much more just there's definitely, for me, that's a willingness to experience it, you know, like that you get a choice to do that. And I think what's so beautiful with the work that you're doing is that you can come to this from wherever you are. You can be like, right, I'm ready to become more conscious, I'm ready to take take my journey, and you can literally start with wherever you're at, with whatever it is you want to bring to the table. That's beautiful.
Yeah. You know, consciousness has been perceived as this thing that's just so unreachable or unattainable, but it's actually easy. It gets to be a part of your everyday life. And, you know, whether you're this, you know, advanced mission soul that is all up in these higher realms, you got to be able to bring that consciousness into your 3D life, in because we're living here, we're human, we have to honor that. And how, you know, I got myself to a point where I'm up in these higher realms doing this really, you know, just high mastery work. I couldn't connect with daily people. I couldn't like have a conversation. And I was missing out on my whole human experience. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Consciousness and living life a little more intentionally, with a little more just conscious minded, uh, is just it gets to be a lot more pleasurable experience versus saying like, "Oh, these people, like I can't even connect with them. I don't even know how, or how do people reach all the way up there?" Like consciousness is able to be obtained and you know, just experience at any and all levels of any state of being.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. When you were talking there, I was just like, oh my goodness. I could, you know, when you just recognize yourself in when somebody's talking, I know you were talking, I was like, oh, that's why I was like really disconnected from people down here. Like, and I just had
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
moment where I was like, wow, okay. And that disconnect moment, because I think you're right, there's a certain, almost like a loftiness if you're up
Yeah.
here doing the work up here. But the reality is you are here in this human body at this time for a
Mhm.
reason, right? We're here to bring all the experience and from past lifetimes and everything we're learning here to do something now, essentially.
Yeah.
And how can we do that if we're spending all our time up over here somewhere?
Right. I know it's uncomfortable to be here in this human body sometimes, but we also really get the gift of being in this human body. And why not take full advantage while we're here, right? We spend eons and eons being a soul and doing the higher mastery work, but we only get, you know, 60, 80 years, 90, 100 years at most to have this human experience. So take full advantage of it. Go live life, go explore, go adventure, go understand who you are and how you operate and how to, you know, really tweak and play and alchemize your body, your vessel, your interaction with other people in this human experience, because we just take advantage of it. We kind of take it for granted. We're like, well, it's dense, well, it's doing this, well, it doesn't doesn't feel good sometimes, but that's okay. We get to experience it for just a few short years in comparison to our soul being a soul.
100%. And you said something there about experiencing, and I think, there's this, as you say, the work you do, there's different layers. There's going to be different things, like different heaviness, like when do things like the inner child work and the shadow work. That is work that can initially, our humanness can feel heavy. It can be where the avoidance is. It can be where you're kind of like, I don't want to go there because it's gonna be really uncomfortable. But actually, when we approach it from that consciousness of, okay, I'm only gonna be here for like 60, 80, 100 years. This is part of what I'm here to experience. How can I be open to experiencing it all and be willing to feel this, in understanding that it's not a negative, it's part of this, who you are here to be and what you're here to experience. I think there's something so powerful in that piece.
Yeah, it totally is. I agree. There's a lot that we can do, a lot that we can experience or avoid, and simply just comes down to the choice of what we want to, experience and how we want to just expand our experience in this reality. Really, that's what it's about. Expansion is experiencing everything, anything and everything in this lifetime that is for us, that we want.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I feel like me and you could chat about this for hours, and go off right off on a tangent about everything. But I would love to know, because obviously, we touched on this actually before we actually got on the call today. And I know that I truly believe that everything that is being spoken about right now is exactly what's being called to be heard by the collective. So is there anything that we kind of haven't touched upon yet that you are being called to deliver or to share?
No, I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot. And it's just starting, like choosing to start your journey or choosing to reel yourself back in, right? So I think if I were to share anything, it's just, hey, take inventory and just do a total reflection on where you are, where you've been, where you're going, and begin to just recalibrate, bringing that soul and that self back center to allow yourself to experience and expand wherever it is in your life, whether it's you need to go back to the fundamentals. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. I've had to do it. I know a lot of people have had to go back to those fundamentals, or you're ready to step into that next level of opening up your spiritual gifts. And there's a little bit of resistance or fear around that, and how to work through that. No matter where you are, you're here and you're listening to all of Lorraine's beautiful calls because you're ready to take that next level into your own soul expansion journey. And we're all here to support you.
So beautiful. Thank you. And
Thank you.
I just love to kind of just to draw on that last point there, because we all have a choice, right? And when we're listening to something like this, there's been so many incredible speakers, and there, there's when you listen, it's that moment of choice and that moment of taking the first step. And actually, it's truly, if I can say nothing more than just to kind of add on what Avery said, is just take the first step, right? Just literally, which could just be reflecting on where you're at right now, and be conscious about what's next for your expansion. Thank you, Avery. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. For everybody who's been watching, I'm sure lots of people want to know how they can come and play in your world, how they can get to know you better. Where's the best place to come and find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me in my Facebook group, which is the Radiant Light Collective, or we can connect on my website or through my social channels. So Lorraine will link those below, and just come play. I have tons of just free offerings and knowledge, just because I want you to really be able to take that first step with a lot of knowledge and a lot of support behind you. And then we can get into deeper layers of where you're ready to accelerate or expand or, even ascend into that next layer of your ascension journey. So let's just do it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, gorgeous soul, for your time and your energy and so much wisdom. We really, really appreciate you. And for everybody watching, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will speak to you again really, really soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.